This band? I like this band. I wrote it down so I don't forget who they are. Oh, I remember. Fucking Slay! Oh, man, this was one of my favorite people out there. We met at the New England Death Metal Fun Time Bonanza. A whole year's gone by. I'm going back to the Bonanza soon. I'm going to have a jolly, sick, good time. She likes to tear it apart with vocals. I love the Final Girls. They went away. I got so sad. But Diablo has risen from the ashes to be more brutal and eerie and scary. She's also a sick, sick, sick creator. She's got Trinity Vampire. She's got a lot of stuff up her sleeve. You gotta go give Casey a follow. We'll get everything on there for you. Where to follow her, where to find her, how to be as cool as her, how to be as cool as me. That's impossible. But without further ado, Casey, how you doing? How you been?
I'm fucking phenomenal. How are you doing?
I am fun fucking tastic. We gotta swear. They say don't swear on YouTube in the first 3 minutes. I don't give a fuck, and neither do you, because we're metal as fuck, and I'm glad that you're back. It's been a year. A lot must have happened.
Yes, everything all at once.
Everything all at once, and that's the way it is, right? And I'm very proud to see you just moving forward with everything. I know, the growth, I tell this to everybody from the Bonanza, in the last year of all of us, is kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. I remember when you were talking about getting a table at conventions and like kind of being nervous about that kind of stuff. And here I am going to have a merch table at the Bonanza this year, which is like mind-blowing to me. I guess, do you mind me asking about the Final Girls? Because I love the Final Girls, and then they went away, and I didn't understand what happened.
All right, there's not much I can legally say. I'll
That's
give you
okay.
that.
That is okay.
But I will say that we kind of outgrew Final Girls.
Yep.
We felt that name had a lot of baggage associated with it.
Sure.
And we were ready to move on and have a more mature sound and experiment more and be able to have the creative freedom to write about anything and everything that we want to write.
Yep. That happens. And I'm just laughing because at the Bonanza, one of your bandmates, who I love very much, was like, you got to get a tattoo. And I just had something in my spidey senses. Something in my spidey sense. I just felt like something. It's weird. And I had said that when I came back. And I was just like, I don't want to get that tattoo yet. I don't know. So luckily, it would have been nice if I did anyway. It would have been a great remembrance of a band and an album I really loved. That goes away. And now we have Diablo. How did that start?
So, like you said, Diablo rose from the ashes of what Final Girls used to be. And I remember we were on hiatus for a while, a couple months, and I met up with Drum Soph, and we got, what was it? Dim sum, actually, with a friend of ours.
Nice.
And I picked her up from the car because it was freezing that day, and she was afraid that her car wouldn't make it with the temperature. It was like literally the weekend after Christmas where it was like below zero. And I was like, don't worry, my car is new. My car is very cursed, mind you.
Oh, no.
But it made it through the trip. We were great. And I asked her, I was like, so what's going to happen? What are we doing? And she's like, fucking miss drumming. And I was like, I fucking miss singing.
Nice.
And I was like, we all fucking miss this shit. And so with Diablo, we were kind of, throwing names around a little bit. So me, Sophia, and Ash returned to the project. And we have Madison on bass, and she's a phenomenal lead guitarist. And I remember we were a little hesitant to ask her to play bass. We're like, listen, like, I know you love playing lead, but like, like she filled in for us for one of our shows, and like we just clicked, and so we're like, okay, we need good energy in this band. So I called her. I was like, how do you feel about playing bass for us? And she was like, let's fucking do it. And so
sick.
Everything was right in that moment. And so we were still trying to figure out names because Final Girls is very iconic of a name. So we were like, how could we top that? And we look up to Crypta, obviously, and Nervosa, and we realized we wanted like a one-word band name, and Diablo kind of just stuck with us. not only is it metal as fuck, but I think the symbolism behind it is very important. It's just like the fact that like there's a she devil out there, you know,
Yeah.
and especially, you know, us being women in metal, like we get faced with a lot of
Way too
nonsense.
much. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, and so we felt that Diablo was basically like a fuck you to all those guys.
Yeah, good. And I mean, first, Crypta is next level. I remember when they were coming up, I just knew. I was like, that band's gonna blow up. Nervosa too, and Emily from Sisters of Suffocation with them and everything. Like, just a really, really great band. And just I knew you wouldn't be out of a band for long. I mean, your vocal delivery is fucking sick and next level. And there are she devils. There's ones that will help the movement, and then there's those metal moms out there that bust my balls. Oh, I'm sorry, McDonald's isn't good enough for you. I didn't understand. Maybe I'll spring for Olive Garden next time. Maybe we'll go. I don't know. Maybe we'll go something crazy like Applebee's. But the importance is what you said. In all seriousness, it's kind of disgusting how a lot of people treat bands that are female. It is so fucking gross. My thing always has been, if you could get on stage and destroy, you respect whoever it is at all times. That's what you need to do. And
Yep.
I didn't I grew up as like Elvira, Mistress of the Dark was my hero. Her and Alice Cooper. Those were like my two heroes, right? Like I liked women wrestlers. I liked Lita Ford. I liked the band Bitch. I liked all these bands. You know, and then when stuff like Drain STH and L7 is one of my favorite bands of all time. All time. I love that band. And I couldn't understand, a lot of my male friends just wouldn't listen to it. Like, or I couldn't like this. Like, they'll ask me, like, who's your favorite wrestler? And they figure it's like a John Cena or like whoever. I don't know who the new guys. I can't keep up to date with everything. I don't know, the Uso brothers, something. For me, it's Rhea Ripley. That's my favorite wrestler.
I love Rhea.
Oh my God! Every time I see her, I just like melt. I have up in my living room her autograph frame picture. I got her piece of the ring when she won the belt. Seeing her out
That's
there,
awesome.
oh, dude, she is the most badass of the badasses. But yet,
Oh, yeah.
like my friends, like even when I say that, like they look at me like I'm like crazy. Like who is your actual? I'm like, that's my favorite wrestler. I don't know what the problem is. So yeah, you have to go through all those struggles just to get accepted. You know what I mean? You could be the best of the best, and you're only going to get accepted to start. It's crazy.
Exactly. And I find that across like all the male dominated spaces that I enter, you know, I do martial arts, I do Muay Thai. I've been doing that striking stuff for about like 3 years now. And then I'm in the comics world too. And so it's like every space that I go in, I feel like I constantly have to fight for my life for respect.
It's true. It's so true. And so the comics is one of the things I'm very excited about, because I remember talking to you last year and I'm seeing what you're doing, and it is so sick. It is so amazing to watch the growth. Let me ask you both. How'd you get into singing, and then how'd you get into comics? Which one did you start first?
Oh my God. I want to say at the same time, you know, I had an older sister who loved to sing and she was very musically inclined. We're about 10 years apart. So I, you know, looked up to her while she was in high school and doing marching band and all this cool stuff. I was a kid doodling on like envelopes and drawing like Dragon Ball Z characters and that kind of stuff. So I saw what she was doing, pursuing her passions. And I loved music at the time. And I grew up mostly on like a bunch of different genres. Not gonna lie, I didn't start off with metal. You know, I listened to like pop in the 2000s. My dad exposed it to salsa and reggaeton because that's a part of our culture.
Yeah.
And you know, R&B and rap were big, and you know, pop punk was on the radio. So I listened to all those genres, and so I knew from a start that I wanted to be a singer. And I experimented when I was a kid with like all those genres, and then by the time I was in middle school, I got into more aggressive music. And you know, it started off with like the emo stuff, and then because of my obsession with Evanescence at the time, and Pandora likes to recommend similar bands, it was like Nightwish, Epica, Within Temptation, all those female fronted like symphonic metal bands.
Yep.
So I was exposed to symphonic metal, and from there I got into power metal, and then melodic death metal, and then death metal, and it just never ends.
It's so sick. And just to pause for a second before I get to the comic question, I love that you said you started I mean, I started non-metal as a child of the 80s. Like, I was like Duran is still one of my 5 favorite bands of all. I do listen to them every day. Hungry Like a Wolf, Rio, all these 80s songs. I was a big Madonna guy, Cyndi Lauper, like, and then I got into say like David Lee Roth and Alice Cooper, and then that got me into Megadeth, and then fucking Slayer. You know, that band I like a little bit. What I want to ask you real quick, who is your favorite non-metal band? And who's your favorite metal band of all time?
Oh my god. Okay. Favorite non-metal band is NSYNC.
Amazing. I never would have thought that in a trillion years, but I love it.
See, nobody seems to like pick it up at first, and then it's like once you get to know me, like you realize like, oh, like she's very like influenced by like the 90s 2000s types of pop groups.
It makes sense because what you said there, I've had people say to me once I start saying like Bananarama, Duran Duran, and they're like, okay, now we see why your aggression is balanced with that like fun and humor, and I like to dance and do all this crazy stuff because for that era for me it's just fun. It's just my personality. Like, I like to have fun all the time, and that stuff when I'm in a bad mood. My metal's my heart, of course. That's my everything. But that 80s pop is so big to me. And then a lot of I was a big Spice Girls fan as well. People laugh at me for that Paula Abdul stuff from the 80s and 90s. I love all that stuff. And whenever I play that stuff, I'm always like, this is the greatest song. Vibology by Paula Abdul is the greatest song of our generation. Madonna Borderline is the greatest song of our I just love all that stuff. So I'm so glad you have the 90s part of it. I mean, NSYNC was massive.
Yeah, and like I said, I looked up to my sister, and she was a product of the 90s, and my older brother too, he was like tail end of the 90s, so I got to experience a lot of 90s culture as a 2000s baby, which was awesome, and I wouldn't trade that for the world.
So good to hear. And then for your metal band, who's your all-time?
Okay, so, I have to think about that. I think Cataclysm. I will always obsess over Cataclysm.
That's amazing. No one's told me that yet. How'd you get into
I love their riffs. Like, I'm very much a melodic death metal girly. Yeah. Like, I will never get tired of them.
So good to hear. I mean, 2 great answers. And I had a feeling with you it was going to be 2 things that no one's talked about on here before. And I knew it.
Yep.
I knew I'd get the energy. I needed that energy today because I had a shitty day at work. And I needed you. And also, I love all you bands out there. But when I'm interviewing 5 of you little son of a bitches, it gets a little wacky all the time. And me trying to rein things in. And I know you, as always being that guardian angel for your band members, you totally understand what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Awesome with the
I'm
music.
band mom.
You are. You're telling me that. And I was like, as I got to know her, like, I get it. She's got her hands full. The comics. How'd you get what was the comic books you started with?
So I actually was a huge Sonic fan growing up, and it still spills over into my daily life. And one of the biggest influences of mine was the Archie comic series. That was the first actual comic series that I got into.
Nice.
And so in 5th grade, all I did was draw characters and make my own Sonic comics. And then, I made all sorts of different like stories with like my friends as like Sonic characters, as cringy as it is, but like teachers and like all the other students were like, this is pretty cool. And I was like, oh, thanks. And then in middle school, I got into anime and manga. And so I was reading Air Gear, Naruto, Fairy Tail, like pretty much all the manga series that were pretty popular at the time. I was reading at least some of them, I couldn't afford to buy every single book, but, at the time you could find them illegally online. So that's what I did. I just went on my computer and read manga and watched anime.
Amazing. That's amazing because, again, generation gap. I didn't have that luxury. I had to go buy comic books in the 80s, and always like a horror nerd. My comics were House of Mystery by DC Comics, Swamp Thing, Elvira had a 12-issue miniseries. I have all those from back in the day. I had to have the Alice Cooper one from the 70s. Like, I love that stuff. And I love like some of the generic, like, like Flash and Superman. I was more of a DC person. And then in the 90s, like the darker stuff, the Vertigo, like Death is Sandman. It sucks. The guy that made it all has all these fucking allegations now. But like the stuff is so great. The Vertigo comic series, they made all these like just dark. I loved it. I still have the shirt, the original shirt from the 90s. And it's Death. There's Death, the High Cost of Living. It is. The Death series just hit me so amazingly. Like, Death comes back to the real world, and it's just like, this girl, it's like this goth girl that's got this like chip on her shoulder, and it was just so different for the time. I always loved those weird different stories, and I like got obsessed with it. And so when you were saying like cringe, I make stories up to this day in my head. Like, I'll sit here for 20 minutes and I'll imagine this thing that even as Metal Horror Madman going out, like, I'm climbing ceilings. I'm like fighting people to save the day. I'm such a nerd like that because I love escapism and fantasy. So, like, when you're able to do that, like the stuff when I was looking at what you do, if I draw, it'll be a stick figure, yelling fucking Slayer and the guy's hitting on a metal mom. There's my artistic integrity. You are very talented. Do you want to talk about, how you decided I'm going to do my own series and everything? Like, that's a lot. That's not, a lot of people never get to do that.
Yeah. So going back to, the 90s and how comics just became way edgier. And I think a part of it was the fact that you had like new metal booming and you had, goth culture coming into the mainstream a little bit. One of my biggest inspirations was The Crow. Not only the movie, but the actual comic series.
So good. Massive fan of both the first movie and the series.
Yes. I have I think the 17th anniversary edition of the series.
Nice.
Hardcover. It's like literally my prized possession.
Yeah.
And there was something about Eric Draven's character that I really loved. He was badass, but he was broken. And I wanted to create a character like that. Just in general, I was like a young kid going through stuff, and I wanted like a more cathartic way of getting my emotions out. And, I was listening to aggressive music, but even that wasn't enough. So that's when I decided to write a story about, a character that pretty much loses the love of his life, very much like Eric, in a very similar but different way. And how he had to overcome the challenges of his world and in his mind to really become the hero that he's supposed to be. And I was only 13. And I just had this one character.
That's crazy.
I had this one character named Scarlet, and she wouldn't leave my mind. I would just draw Scarlet over and over again, and I knew she was the love interest that had to leave.
Yep. That is sick at 13. I don't know how you operate the stuff you're doing. Like, you're sitting here, you're like, I do this martial arts, I do comics at 13, I do music, I do everything. And I always like to tell people that's the inspiration people need to understand. Like, here you are I was going through some stuff, and I found that all of us in these genres of music, the movies, almost every one of us doesn't have the greatest background at one point. Like, it seems like we've all gone through a lot of things, and then we try and bring it into these different art forms that we do, and we try and inspire people. Because I don't know, like, I feel like if I could just help, I think of some of the stuff like me personally, I had like a really bad abusive childhood, and it was one of those things where like I feel like I was in a cult, like with my father. Like, I'm talking even into my 20s. I'm 48 now, but like even in my 20s and 30s, like I was just so loyal because blood is thicker than and all that like bullshit, which is not real. And I just think of some kids. I know there's people out there in my situations right now every single day, and I'm going like, if I could bring them some type of hope. Like, I have two brothers that I don't talk to. They let addictions. I just can't do it anymore. They have hurt too many people. They've taken advantage of too many people. And I try and show people, like, I came from the same environment, but I refuse to allow that to define who I am.
Right.
I try and tell anybody that's doing like, I'll have creators or bands and they're like, no one showed up to the show or no one's watching my videos. I'm like, if you just inspire one person, you did it. There's never a reason to quit. If you have one follower for 50 years that loves what you do, that's awesome. And if you love doing what you do, that's awesome too. So when you're out there, you know, you're fighting for people that are troubled. You're fighting for people that aren't accepted in certain genres. You have all these different things that you're out there showing. And you're taking these inspirations from these characters that are very you don't know half the time. Are they a hero? Are they not a hero? Like, what are they? And that's life, right? Like, it's not just a always good and evil thing. Like, we're all complicated. We have lots of dynamic things that are going on. But when you talk about that era, like the 90s also were comics. Again, super nerd. I was so into comics. And that's when like all of a sudden Image Comics came out. And like
Yep.
Valiant came out and all these different characters. I'm like, Shadow Man was like such a cool character. And like Turok Dinosaur Hunter and then Savage Dragon and all this and Spawn. And it was all these different. And I was like, I like this so much better than your cookie cutter superhero.
Yep.
That's just a good guy. That's it. There's good and bad, and there's no one, you know, saying anything. So the Crow, a huge inspiration. What other inspirations did you have?
So that's a great question. I mean, I was really much like a Naruto kid. I say that Naruto Uzumaki raised me better than any adult in my life.
Amazing.
And what I liked about that series in particular is that like a lot of these characters have struggles and traumas.
Yeah.
And especially Naruto, and he learned I learned from him to overcome anything that comes my way, good and bad. And besides that, I mean, music was very much a driving force for my story. It's funny because when I was coming up with Miles's art, the main character, I just thought of Andy Biersack from Black Swan Brides.
Nice.
The way that he looked when they were starting out with like the hair and the piercings and everything. And so like that's what I was listening to when I was young. And so, you know, after a certain point, like it all like melts together. I was reading literature too, very much into like Dracula and the Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And
nice.
You know, I was just that weird kid, like into all the weird stuff. And so it just all comes out in Trinity pretty much.
Yeah. No, that's so sick. And like I said, I remember last year you talking about I want to do conventions, and again, watching you do that, it makes me so happy because it's just great to see the growth. Like, I love all of us that say we're just going, we're not stopping. There's no criticism that can stop us. There's no roadblocks. This is what I want to do. How did you feel when you said, "Here I am. I'm at this convention, you know, and I've got my comic going on, all these things." What were the nerves like?
There were nerves. A lot of time I was anxious that I wouldn't make my table back, that people would look at my art and think it was weird because obviously it's like non-conventional, like it's got horror and supernatural elements to it. And you know, after a while, I realized that like my people will find me and I will find them.
Yes.
And the change that has happened within these past couple months as far as like me doing conventions has really shown itself. And I finally had the courage to launch my Kickstarter for Volume 1. I was working on it behind the scenes for about 2 years now, going back and forth about trying to get a publisher to get it. And then I was getting rejected by publishers or ignored by publishers. And then I got to a certain point where I was like, I have to crowdfund this, and either people are going to like it or not. So, yeah.
And how is that? Is that still open right now?
So the Kickstarter did close, but I have enabled late pledges. But books are in production, so I will have those up on my website soon, and I'll have those up at conventions for people to purchase. Take a look at.
That is sick. You've got to be. Last year, again, we were out in the middle of the woods, right? And this all seemed like pipe dreams. We were all dreaming big out there, and things are just, for those of us that want it, right? For those of us with that passion, and you talked about a lot of your doubts, and even some of the people talking with us, like, I remember like hearing like doing a convention. It's tough out there, and it's like you took that like I'm doing it. Doesn't matter, and that's what you have to do. It does not matter what people are saying one way or the other. They're not the ones putting
Right.
in this effort, and a lot of people. Sometimes we can't get to the level we want to just because, right? Sometimes things just don't gel. But if you
Right.
got to try, and you'll find that success. And the only way to do it is what you did. Go, I'm a nervous wreck. I got to figure out how to get this thing made. And you did it. Do you know the amount of people that don't? I mean, literally 90% of the people that say that, maybe more than that, just don't do it. And they think you're crazy. And to relate, I'm doing my first merch booth this year. And then I'm doing another one at Silver Scream in Worcester with Purchase Street Records. And it's like crazy to me. Like I'm sitting here, and that's why I got to talk to you because I got to get some art from you. I got to have I got to get an art, and I'm gonna make some shirts, and I'm gonna just put your name everywhere. And I'm sure you'll help me think of something really insane and stupid because I'm wacky like that. I'm wacky, everybody. If you didn't know, I was outside in a pig mask yesterday, being a pig troll, trying to eat my vinyl crops off the ground, and people will look at that, and I have my loyal nut jobs on Insta and Talk, but I'm growing here on YouTube. I'm growing here. Like I didn't even touch this till, I don't know, 6-8 months ago, where I actually started putting stuff on there. I'm starting to grow in here, which is sick. This place, though, where I'll get all positive on the others, every time you start a new platform, you'll have some trolls, some haters, some stuff like that. Like, oh, you're too old acting this way. And then people will be like, you may want to research him, first of all. I don't think you know who you're talking to here. He's a little crazy and he's everywhere, but I don't let that. I just now brushed it off my shoulders. And 4 years ago, I wouldn't have. 4 years ago, I would have taken that really to heart. And then I went to a phase of like, I got to respond. And now I just laugh at it because, like you talk about, they come at certain things, people, not to your face. Like online is where they love to go, right? Online. And if you allow them, if you give them that power, they don't stop. I used to go in a live and like somebody would be trolling and I'd give it back to them. And then I was like, wait a minute. Now they're in here. Like now they think they got my attention. They're not going to stop. And I was like, why am I giving them anything? They're jealous people. They look at stuff we're all doing. They don't have, and that's why I say to even these people, unless you're just one of those real garbage scumbags that I need to smack the shit out of, if you're just being a troll because you know what? I got love for you too. Just don't go that direction, though. Instead of showing, negativity towards somebody, I've had some where I've been able to turn them around because it's like, hey, I'm not, again, if you're going to be garbage, I'm going to treat you like garbage. But if you're going to be somebody that's just busting chops a little or something, and I'll say, well, why are you doing that? I had somebody when I was out, screaming my slayers, and they're like, and I literally went right up to him and put my arm around him. And I was like, we're having a good time doing this right now. If you don't like it, don't say anything. And I'm like, I'm a nice guy. I'm like, everyone sees this aggressive nut job, but when you meet me in person, I'm very chill until I get pushed to a certain limit. Then I could not be a nice guy. I'm like, it takes me, I've gotten really good at just keeping things flowing. But I go to them, there's people that aren't going to like that you're doing this. I'm like, so you probably shouldn't put other people down when they're having fun. Oh, no, well, I like more of this genre. I'm like, that's cool, man. That's awesome. But you don't see me looking at your shirt coming at you. And like, I felt so good doing that. And I didn't like lose my temper. I just looked at him like, you're making an ass out of yourself in front of a lot of people right now. Like if you don't like something, I come from a generation when you don't like something, I would change the TV channel. I wouldn't buy the comic book. I wouldn't watch the cartoon as a kid. I liked my Smurfs and my Snorks and my Gummy Bear cartoons. And then there was cartoons I didn't like, so I didn't watch them. There's movies I don't like. And there was bands I didn't like that I didn't listen to. And I don't know. I just don't understand that mentality. And I'm just giving you so much credit because the stuff you talked about last year and you handled everything great and your growth is next level and very inspirational. And you've got to be tremendously proud of yourself. And you are out there on the circuit now and you're going to make a name for yourself more and more and more. And I can't wait to the comics online because I'm buying a copy immediately. And this guy's not a bullshit artist. Like I want to support it. And I'm so proud to see you didn't give up. Every time when I saw like another convention, I'm like, look at this motherfucker. Like she wasn't sure she was ever going to do a convention at the time. And now look at you.
Yeah, I mean, it has definitely been an uphill battle, and like you said too, like people get really bold online. I was raised to have the mentality that if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all.
Yep, same.
And I'm also the type of person where it's just like, if you're gonna say something that's not so nice, say it to my face.
Exact.
But
Same
you don't
here.
want to fight me about it because you know you can't best me in a fight.
No, on any level, you will beat their ass.
The problem, and like it's sad because I'm just like I'm really not confrontational, but I
Right.
learned to stand my ground because I've been pushed around so much my whole
Good.
life that it came
Good.
to a certain point where I was just like, you know what, I'm not going to tolerate this.
Nope.
You know, I believe that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So I try to put good energy out there into the world. I try to, speak my truth and,
You
help
do.
as many people as I can. And if people don't like that, that's on them. I can only hope that they find inner peace in their lives.
That is great, and it's great advice for everybody because I also did what you did growing up. I used to allow people to take advantage of me, and I would allow people to put me down for things, and that version of me, and this is what people don't get, like that. They're different versions of us. The 25-year-old me is I don't. They'll say, "Oh, don't you want to be younger again?" Not at all, because for me at that age, I don't like who that guy was. This guy now, like I will not allow anyone to bully anyone out in public ever. I will throw down in 2 seconds. I tell everybody to watch people when you're out. Don't put up with any of that bullshit ever. Ever. And just like you, like I'm not looking for I don't like confrontation. People think I mean everyone tells me I like maybe I do like it a little bit. Okay. Maybe I do enjoy it, but I prefer not to have to go that route. And I'm glad you're giving that message to people out there and younger kids because I spent my whole life just being like, no, just take it. It's okay. Even in a conversation where when I started social media, even like I had friends outside of that who I've kind of got rid of that group now because they kind of put me like, you're acting like that at this age and you're doing that and you're putting on short brat shorts. I'm like, if my ass looks good and I can dance, I'm going to do it. What am I supposed to do? And number two,
Yes.
mind your own fucking business. I'm not putting your shit down. What are you in the crochet club? What are you in the fucking Murder She Wrote fucking suit and tie, black coffee, got old club? That shit ain't for me. But if that's what you like, good for you. And I'm glad you're saying that because people need to understand it's a better world if we. And it doesn't have to be a like go fuck yourself thing. You find I've even had it. People that I was connecting with good. You know, even in social media with good. What am I fucking even talking about? What a rough day I had. I was connecting with good today, and I had like these people that I was vibing with, and then you just notice like, wow, I'm always like, they're like, can you introduce me to this band? And then it's like, then you'll notice them talking to somebody. Oh, I would have introduced you, but blah blah blah. And you're like, I'm not putting up with that. And I would say to them like, and I got rid of those. I just cut those people out completely out of my life, and I said, you know what? And they never got talked to like that. And I wasn't mean. I was just matter of fact. I go, I've noticed some patterns. I go, you're also doing stuff trying to hold me back, saying like, oh, I don't post this amount of times. I'm watching you post 5. And I'm like, I don't like what you're doing because I want to support everybody. I don't look at other creators as my competition at all. There is no competition for me when you're Metal Horror Madman. But even if there was, these are people I want to help. So like, I'll have people even with this podcast and I'll go like, we see when you get the bigger names, why you do. I go, I prefer and they'll come up because also sometimes the people that will try and help you get these names, there's a lot of strings attached and you just don't need that shit either. I prefer, right? I prefer the group that we know, the up and coming people that have something to say that people aren't giving them a platform. And I like to have, some of like I said, some of these interviews with the bands will just go off the fucking rails and it just gets, and we just, although it's like everyone just, because I get everybody's guard down and it's like we can act dopey. We don't have to be so serious and so metal all the time. And the biggest thing, as I ramble per usual, is you talking about sticking up for yourself because I was bullied in school all the time for my weight. Every time. And then I'd get in a fight though. I'd have to get in a fight. I came from an abusive home. If I didn't get in a fight in school, I'm going to get my ass kicked bad at home. And when I can tell you I did not like getting in fights, I hated it. I would get like, I didn't know I couldn't stand it, but it would work. Like I would punch the cliche right in the face, and then I'd be good that year. And then, you know, the next year, maybe some new kids. And then I'd go to a different school and it would start again. And then I ended up dropping out of high school because I was like, I'm just done with this whole shit. I didn't believe in any of it. I didn't believe in a lot of the teachers were mentally abusive. I didn't believe in the system. And I
Yeah.
dropped out. This is when you could get your GED the same year. Now they make you wait till you're like graduating year to try and encourage. But all they're doing is making kids never get their GED. It's bullshit.
Yeah.
I got it at 16. I got my license. I went and got a job. And then I went to college. Anyway, then I went to like community college, and then I went to universities, and I graduated at the top of my class. And that was my way of telling the system to go fuck itself and telling everybody around there that cliche of you're a dropout, you're a burnout. I'm like, that's all bullshit. A lot of dropouts just do things their own way. I was like, I'm doing, and it was harder. I put myself through a lot of hell, and it took me a while too to be comfortable. Like, yeah, I dropped out of high school and did it my own, because people look down on you for that too. And I work in a professional corporate career. I just don't care. Like I've hit this inner peace, which it's great to hear you hearing at a younger age. Like I hit this peace that it's like, I don't care what anybody has to say. When I go out and do my thing and cause these riots with the Slayers and get all this energy, if somebody doesn't like it, look the other way. I don't know what to tell you. I'm having fun doing it. I'm having fun with my videos. And then you just told me, like, again, I remember some of our conversation last year, especially with some of the haters and stuff, and you've overcome everything. You've overcome everything. And your message it's a simple, but it's the most important message for anybody. Don't put up with that stuff. Don't let people bully you. Don't have those frenemies either. I'm done with that stuff too in my life. If you're going to be, I will support every creator, every business, every band, unless they start trying to take advantage of me. Unless they start asking for more and more, or if they're passive aggressive, like, oh, you dress like a girl, like, oh, how could you do that? And you're making fun of. I'm like, who am I making fun of? I'm trying to show people we can all be who we are. Like, my people outside of, and I know we're in the extreme metal world too, and the alternative world. It's different than just people out in regular society, even that have all different lifestyles. Like, we're in a different place. And I do things to break down barriers and just show people, be yourself. Like, you don't have to be afraid. And you're seeing more and more people like us that will defend you. We're there for you. We're not going to allow people to treat you like that. And we can help you come out of that shell and defend yourself. So I know that was long-winded, but to hear you say that it's so important. How did you get that comfortable to go, like, I've had it. I went through some shit and I've had it.
Well, I mean, it definitely was a turning point. I would say, like, when I became an adult, I was 18, and, you know, I graduated high school, and people just kept letting me down over and over again. I didn't have, like, my dad was around, but he wasn't, you know what I mean? Like, and so I was seeking things outside of myself, and I got to a point where it was like, I'm the only person that can advocate for me. Yes. So I had to do something about it. And so when I started to put my foot down with, you know, the people I was friends with and in relationships with, and I started to finally develop that self-respect that I was lacking all those years of my life. And then from there, I was able to start actually building meaningful relationships with people, because now I developed standards, and realistic standards, let's be honest.
Right.
And, you know, COVID kind of hit, so that kind of threw a wrench in my socialization after that.
Oh, that was rough, yes.
But, yeah, I mean, from there, I felt like even COVID made me, like, rapidly grow up too in that time frame. And so I realized, like, okay, this is what's important to me. These are my values. Yeah. And at the end of the day, I'm just going to be the strongest person that I can be, both mentally and emotionally, and also physically. Yeah. So I was getting into weightlifting as well. But yeah, like, I would say it was around the time where I just started to become an adult and see the world as it was.
Well, and it sounds like, and you're saying it like, I became a lot of people never grow up, right? A lot of people don't, and they stay abusive assholes, and they put people down. Yeah. And the thing, like, because my father is such a narcissist, like, I'm obsessed with that mentality and learning it, and, like, my brothers, and you watch
I
things happen.
understand because I have narcissists in my family too, so I understand.
Right, and it's like
Yeah.
someone I really looked up, and it's like all the things that happen where like he's much older now, and he's alone now, like he has nobody wants any,
Hmm.
in which
Yep.
I also watch all the opportunities he had, and like I was manipulated, and he'd get himself in trouble and jail and stuff, and it'd be like, you always promised me as a kid you take and I'm like, holy shit, he groomed me to become successful and have a good job so I could take care of him because he's such a thieving, lying, cannot. And I mean, he destroyed so many lives of his friends, my friends, borrowing money from that. Like, I went through so much. I have a dark part that I just went through. I just didn't want to be around. I was like,
Yeah.
I had it. I tap. I can't do this anymore. And then I started digging out, and then I'd use like booze to do it, and that was a disaster. That caused me a lot of fucking problems. And I started getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And I saw a therapist for a little while. I'm not afraid to see it, guys. If you need to see a therapist, go see a fucking therapist. If someone has a
Please do.
problem with it, send them my way. And I went over there. And the thing about that is and it was one of those things. I didn't get a lot out of it, what I was being told. I got a lot of what I was saying and like talking to myself. And I wouldn't even do something like, I'm just telling this to people because you don't have to take everything verbatim and you don't have to give up on something if it's not working the way you want it to.
Right.
I took out of it what I needed and I grew stronger and stronger. And then COVID for
Mhm.
me is when I was like, should I start making like a video? Like, and I did like a TikTok and like I didn't look at it maybe for 6 months or something. Like, and I was so nervous when I started on there. I was so quiet and I looked completely different. I was so timid on there. And one day I put on a wig and I was always like, I'm bald. I can't do anything. Like I was beat like people, hey guys, I got multiple sides of me. I really doubted myself and I would beat myself up. And one day I did like a heavy metal one because I was doing like this. You want to talk cringe? This was unbearably bad stuff. And at the time I was like, why isn't this taking off? And I did a metal one. And a lot of our people, the people that are getting picked on and the people that, are different than everybody and think differently and look at the world different, they started attaching to me. And I'd have half of that and I'd have half the people going, you're the cringiest guy on TikTok. You fucking suck. You don't know what you're doing. And I could have taken that. I'd sit there and I go, do I quit? And I go, that's not me. I go, I've never quit. Like, look what I've accomplished, what I've been through already. And it started
Mhm.
going and going. And then, I don't remember when I screamed the first Slayer and the first thrash, and people were like, this is fucking crazy. And I even watched that progression where, like, I got louder and louder, more confident. And now I'm in Milwaukee Metal Fest with hundreds of people, and my mind is still blown that I was in Milwaukee and got that kind of like reception. I still
Mhm.
can't believe it. And I'm going like, if I quit, if people like us said the narcissists win, the haters win,
Yeah.
because that's all I had growing up was my uncles. They were all just bad people, and they would let me know I wasn't a good person just because, right? Just because they hated themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. And breaking generational curses is definitely something that I have had to wrestle with
Yeah,
for a long time because, like you said, you had narcissists in your family. I have narcissists in mine, and I'm constantly self reflecting to make sure that I don't develop those
it could
habits.
happen.
And,
Yeah,
and it's hard because, especially like, I want to be confident and I want to put myself out there and I want to also be proud of the things that I do, but I have to remind myself to be humble.
yes. And listen, that's
Yeah.
natural. It's human nature, first of all, but because of the people that we had, I've had to watch that. I've had to watch where, you know what, if I get manic at an event and I'm like, I'm king of the world, and everyone and then you're like, wait a minute, this isn't who you are. This
Right.
like that's who I am, is going like,
Um,
again, I'm too humble at times. Like I went to Milwaukee and I'm like, well, not one person will know who I am there. Like this is fucking crazy. I'll just have a good time and within seconds it just started like spiraling. And I got so intense there. Like when we talk about not I got so manic and hyper. I was screaming slayers and threat and I'm like dancing around. I'm running and everybody's like, it's hot out. You've been doing this at the pre-show. You're gonna collapse. You can't. And I'm like, fuck that. And like day 3, I get up and I'm like, And they're like, what? I'm like, I can't talk. I like blew my fucking voice out. So like I was like, but I was like proud that I was that confident that I was
Yeah.
like, I had bands that were like, can you do one with us? And I was like, yeah, let's go. They're like, can we do it over there? And I'm like, no, let's do it in front of everybody. Like, I don't know. And I'm like, you were just on stage, like acting like a. And then people are like, it's just different when you're not on the stage. And I'm like, see, for me, I hit that place like it took a while. I wasn't like this even last year. Even at the Bonanza last year, I was a nervous wreck. I was a nervous wreck there. I showed up there by myself. I was not myself yet. I was walking around in circles for a while. I didn't know. I started getting in my comfort zone like day 2, but I still. This year, they're in a lot of trouble. They are in so much trouble because I'm rolling in there. I mean, that's my fucking crew now. Like, I am rolling in there, and I am ready to go. But it's all those decisions we could decide to make where I could go, you stay nervous, you stay scared. You worry about there's some people that will never like us. They're never going to like us, no matter what we do. And that's okay. And if they think I'm obnoxious, good for, as long as they don't come at me and show hatred, right? Because I don't do this with anybody. I've heard people send me demos. I've had stuff that is not good, but I will never say that to somebody. Ever, ever, ever. All I will say is that sick you're making music. Keep it going. Tighten up where you think you need to, because we all start somewhere. And
Yeah.
it's a great balance, but staying humble. Even at the Bonanza, like I wasn't even going to do a merch booth. I'm like, why am I going to? And people are like, go do one. You're there, go do one. And I'm just like, I don't know. And they're like, what is wrong? Like you see the reactions you get everywhere you go. That's part humble, and that's also part of that abusive upbringing that I always feel like I'm not good enough. It's not good enough. Like no matter what I did in my house, no matter what I did, I graduated college, and my parents were like, well, so-and-so's kid just graduated as a lawyer. That's what I heard. I didn't hear like, great job, you did it, you dropped out, and you did this. That was the message, and it sticks to me to this day. But those are the things, too, that I think help me. Like, nobody can tell me not to do something anymore. It's just not acceptable. I won't allow it.
Right.
So you're in the same boat, and you've overcome it all, and now you're doing these things, and you're staying humble, and you're self-aware. That's the biggest thing.
Yes.
That's the
gotta get those reality checks. Come back to earth a little bit.
And it's because you're on all fronts right now. You're doing multiple things, right?
Yeah.
How do you balance? How do you balance with the like? I got the comics, I got the music, I got I'm staying fit, I'm doing all these things, I'm doing conventions, I'm doing live shows, as well as surviving in the real world.
Yeah, and I have very much have the artist work life where I juggle a bunch of different odd jobs.
Okay.
Because I refuse to have the 9 to 5, but God bless my fiance who took it upon himself to have the 9 to 5.
Someone's got to take those hits,
Yeah. So, I mean, what I do is always a form of catharsis. The music, the art, the working out.
Yep.
So that's how I stay sane, because it's like, those are my times of peace.
Yeah.
Even as aggressive as those outlets can be, I find myself at peace.
It's so true, and I think it's because always have to make it about me, everybody. I got to talk about me some more. I take it as peace, too, because it's my place of, like, doing that stuff to me and the aggression and the screaming. And we're around people that appreciate it. And it's outside of this real world that is just miserable, right? Like, the world today it's actually affecting me pretty badly. It's been really fucking up my head lately. And, right, I'm not happy with any way anything is going. I don't like the suppression of people. I'm very against war. And I'm very disappointed that it's like, I have to be careful even speaking out about that stuff now. Like, that's a scary place to be. And watching, I noticed it, not to get political, everybody, but fuck you, it's my podcast. It's one of those things where I noticed, like, I live out in like in the fucking country, which I fucking hate, but that's where I live. That's where I fucking live, everybody. And fucking chipmunks and squirrels are my friends. And I watch a lot of the people around me, and I watch a lot of just this like aggression of people and pickup trucks and like fucking just behaviors, and not to stereotype everybody, but
Hmm.
I said this and I was telling friends and family, I'm like, I don't like something. Like something's off right now. And it's getting worse and it's getting worse and it's getting worse. And it's a scary place. So when I go into Full Metal Horror Madman, that's a positive aggression. That's an aggression
Yeah.
of hype. You're hyping people up on stage. That's an
Hmm.
aggression that's giving them energy and going, look at her go up there. Like you're inspiring many people because of you will get up on stage and pick up a mic. Like you're doing that for people. And then you're showing, you can infiltrate comic books and you can hang with all the guys everywhere because you're bringing expert level stuff to everything. You're not half-assing it. Most people that do multiple things, they can't decide like what they want to do. How do you
Yeah.
okay? How do you also do that? How do you keep that where you go, I'm all in for this? Like, and you have to do it. And I know you said like you do the odd jobs with the job because me being in like a corporate thing it makes it like I filmed like 3 podcasts in the last 4 days, as well as doing my videos and working on merch. And for me, it's just that drive of I love doing. I just love it. Like
Yeah.
if it stresses me out because I'd rather that be from this. Like my life is stressful
Yes.
all the time anyway, right? So this part of it, at least I go, I like doing this. But how do you say like I can commit to all these things and bring that high quality?
That's such a loaded question. I've always been a very intense person.
Okay.
I think a lot of people can concur, humbly speaking, like a lot of people can concur that. I don't believe in half-assing anything. I think that's also just ingrained in my cultural background. Like,
Okay.
my grandparents came from Puerto Rico, and worked hard to
Yeah.
survive. And I learned that hard work always pays off. And so even when I was just starting out, like as a teenager working, I knew like I had to give my best. I had to always do my best. In school, I did my best all the time because,
Right.
you know, if you can commit to doing your best for yourself, then it's going to take you places you never thought that it would.
True.
And again, it's about believing in yourself and realizing that the sky is the limit.
It is.
And I'm always trying to do better. And whether that's become a better vocalist or a better martial artist or a better writer, illustrator, I'm always trying to reach my maximum potential because there comes a certain point where I'm not going to be able to do this stuff one day. And I want to be able
Yeah.
to look back on that legacy and be like, wow, like I really pushed myself to the limit in a good way, you know?
It is a good way. The saddest thing for me, and I'm glad because like at the Bonanza there was a band and they were just like, this is going to be over soon, and I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? This is just beginning. And it's like, well, we're not getting a lot of people. I'm like, doesn't matter. And I'm watching the growth of them, and I'm like, so glad they didn't stop. Like I said, so many of us were doubting ourselves last year, and
Mhm.
and that's the thing. Like there will come, and I know that with me as well. There's gonna come a time. I'm not gonna be 75 fucking running around like that. That's just not going to happen. But I'm gonna
Right.
do everything I can do right now while I can. And
Yes.
people have to get out of their own heads and go, either I'm too young, I'm too old, I'm too much going on. We're not here that long, guys. We're not here that long. This is not a long time to be around, and time just keeps flying. And like COVID took so much of our time, and it's good that these
Yes.
people, though, some of us used it as a positive, right? We were like, we started getting creative with everything. Where I know, unfortunately, a family member that was doing very good but got caught up in a lot of like drugs and alcohol, and another one that just became like a friend that got alcohol. Then they just can't break free of it now, and they didn't use
Hmm.
that time to get healthy. They use that time to like look at everything negative, and you
Right.
can't like you're gonna like people. I try and tell them too. You're gonna have a bad show. You're gonna have a bad event. You're gonna have a bad video you put out. You're gonna do something that you could have done better. But if you
Hmm.
just keep going and don't harp on that stuff, that's how this works. You just keep going. You just keep taking the hits. It's all those cliches because if you don't do it, I mean, just think already of the stuff, and you're just getting started. Think of all the stories you're creating. And I look at it for all of us like, imagine if we all just quit, and then we're like everybody else, and we're just watching the news all day and fighting with people, and you know, going out once a week is our big thing, and it's like you miss all these other things and being creative and finding those
Right.
outlets. So yeah, it's crazy, and that's a good message, guys. Do it while you can. Because then other things just happen in life too. There will be unexpected things that are going to happen to you. Anything that you think is bad, the bad hasn't happened yet. You don't even know
Hmm.
it's going to be happening. And then you
Exactly.
do get older, and it gets tougher to do things, and people getting accepting you and all these things. But don't lose who you are, and that's all I try and tell people. There's no reason to ever say I'm too this for anything. We're all equal to me. If you're not like, again, if you're not an evil person spewing hatred, other than that, we're all the same. Like, it's okay. It's okay. So you're preaching a really good message. You really are with all these things. As far as Diablo, what are the
Yes.
next steps for that? I know I
Um,
get too intellectual, and then you're good at talking about this stuff. You're just like, man, shut up. I want to promote this.
no, I love the intellectual and philosophical conversations, but
Good.
yeah. So Diablo, we are working on a single. This upcoming month actually is when we're going to start recording, which is exciting. Very different than Flannel Girls,
Okay.
but actually still heavy, still amazing, and I'm actually really excited to lay down vocals on that track.
Yep.
And we have a show with Crypto in Brooklyn,
I
September 5th.
saw. I meant to say that when you brought up crypto, but you know me, I'm like blah 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 blah. I couldn't believe that. That is crazy.
Yeah. And for the longest time, we always said that we wanted to like open for them. And the funny thing with that story in particular is we were told we couldn't go on that show because they already booked
Oh.
3 bands to open.
Yeah.
People were bombarding, I guess, the promoter and the venue and all their mutuals
Yep.
because after a certain point, I was asked if we can do that day. I told all the girls, are we good to do that day? And then we were on that crypto show.
I will say, with you and Sophia, are two of the most aggressive people with getting things done that just keep, like, when she was just like, I'm doing your fucking podcast, basically. When she did her first episode, I was like, you do my podcast? And then she's like, I want to get on the Bonanza. And like the drive you both have with that stuff. And that's one of the best things. Like Eric from Bonginator, I used to talk about this a lot. He put out a video, and every once in a while, me and Eric can act serious. Everything doesn't have to be wacky and crazy all the time. And he talked about, I got to tell him this too when I see him. People will say, and I just had it happen to me, how do I do this? How do I start a band? How do I book a venue? How do I do a show? And he said, and I stole his advice, pick up the phone, network with everybody, talk to
Yeah.
people. You'd be surprised the amount of people willing to help. People in bands even that you would think wouldn't respond to you will respond to you. Or people, at venues and all these different things. And I went through that for a bit too. I was like, I don't want to even message this person. I can't even believe I'm doing this. To where now I'm like, it's the only way. And someone had asked me, and I'm like, they're like, can you? I'm like, well, what do you think you would do? Do I contact the band or the venue first? I'm like, let's talk this through. Where would you start if you're trying to book a show? Do the bands want to do it? Yes. I'm like, then the bands want to do it, so that's good. And he has like a small label, and like that's awesome. And then it's like, what's the next step? And it's like, you got to call the venue. You got to talk to the booking agent manager or whatever. You got to talk to these, and you got to just have your shit ready. And I'm going through it all with him, and it's just stuff that I picked up on, by researching, by looking, and by Eric. And I said to him, the thing you're not doing though is not picking up the phone. I'm like, you've got to pick up the phone. I believe in you 1,000,000%. I believe in him 1,000,000,000%. I know he's going to be very successful, and it's just getting that confidence. And I didn't have that either at one point. So it's like you get that confidence, and he has it, and I'm pumping him up. And just like you, I try and do that with everybody, and you try and get them to that level. So that's amazing, crypto. That is huge. And again, these are nothing to the bigger thing that are going to happen to you guys down the line. Like this is sick right now. So you got crypto. Are you nervous about that show?
I'm actually not nervous. about performing. I'm
Yep.
more nervous about everything else involved in that show, like how to get there and everything. Because getting to
Okay.
the city always stinks, especially when you have a lot of gear to load in. I think that's where
Yep.
my anxiety is coming from, not the
Okay.
actual performance, but just
And
all
that's
everything leading up to it.
leading up to it, and that's good too. I asked that for these bands to think of that. Like, yeah, the cities suck to get anything to. That is
Yeah,
just to get yourself to the venue is a whole thing. Like when I got to go to
yeah.
Boston, I'm just like, can't it just be somewhere closer? Like, does it have to be
Mhm.
there? Well, that's huge news. Where can we find you and the band? Instagram, TikTok, YouTube.
Yeah, so yeah, so Diabla has both TikTok and Instagram at diabla.metal, and then
Okay.
my personal Instagram and my TikTok is Carnation's X Carnage.
Yep.
And you can also find Trinity Vampire on Webtoon, but
Sick.
the physical version is much better. Trust me, it's much better than the digital version.
Hey, I can't wait. I'm going to grab a copy. You know, I'll promote it. You know, I try and help all of you out as much as I can. We'll get that in the stories. I'll try and do a video, all this fun stuff. Once Diablo has music out, all that stuff, we'll do that too. And
Yes.
keep being an inspiration for everybody. You are leaps and bounds from last year. And just keep remember what I'm saying. You are literally everything you've accomplished, you're just getting started. Remember this as the years go by. You are just getting started, and don't lose that. Don't lose who you are. Stay humble. Keep the good people around you. It sounds like you figured that out. You have a fiance now. You've got people